is Matthew DeVell. I'm the president of International Suicide Prevention, a 501c3 nonprofit public charity. Today I'm bringing you good news about a new procedure for the suicidal. It's called 4-phase. I'm going to be explaining how it works, what it does, and how it can help you. The first part of 4-phase is the what exactly does it do? When somebody is suicidal, they go to a psychiatrist or counselor and they say they're having these thoughts of self-harm. The problem we're having with mental health in our country or around the world, people want to treat the symptom. Symptoms are phobias, dissociative disorders, PTSD, anxiety, depression. These are all symptoms. If you treat a symptom, you're not going to cure the problem. The problem is, at some point in somebody's life, they've had a trauma. Trauma is any situation or event that's occurred that's outside the scope of their normal life experiences. Anyone can experience a trauma. Generally, our lives are built on traumas. The way we perceive the world is based on beliefs and values. Beliefs and values are created throughout our lives, but generally they're hardwired by the time we're 6 years old. Now, can we create new beliefs and new values? Of course we can. Can we get rid of the old ones? Of course we can. That's where 4-phase comes in, because we take advantage of a naturally occurring phenomena. Beliefs and values are what allow us to survive in this world. A belief, a value or a belief would be that fire can hurt you. And the way that belief is created is through experience or the imagination. The imagination is watching somebody else burn themselves, and you're basically creating a scenario in your own mind. What would happen to you if you burned yourself? And the other is you actually burn yourself and you know this is painful and I don't want to do that again. All human decision making is based on two possible outcomes. Either we're avoiding pain or we're seeking pleasure as a possible outcome. With that in mind, when you have a trauma, you will automatically, instinctually know that that's pain. And you do anything you can to avoid that pain or any reoccurrence of the memory of that pain that you've had in the past. And that could be anything from the sounds, the taste, the touch. All decisions that humans make are based on two possible outcomes. Either we're avoiding pain or seeking pleasure. Now, in order to understand how a trauma occurs, I'm going to tell you a story about a little bear. His name is Pooh, and it's from a story called Winnie the Pooh and the Honey Tree. The little bear is hungry, so he goes to Rabbit's house, which is a hole in the ground, and he gorges himself on honey. Pooh is basically an experience, an event. Once you cross a threshold of your life usual scope experiences, you no longer fit through the rabbit hole to exit. The rabbit hole is the conscious mind. Outside is the subconscious. The event gets stuck in the hole. And at that point, you do everything you can to get that hole unstuck, but there's no budging the bear. So what do? You mask the bear. You draw a face on it. That's dissociative disorder. You create a frame around the bear, you put antlers on it, and at some point you get so tired of the bear being there that you don't even want to look at it anymore, and you turn around and there it is in the mirror. And you have to keep using the back door. And a back door in anybody's house usually requires some effort to get to the front of the house. Now, what we do with 4-phase is we take the bear and we remove the honey from the bear. And then we're pulling and pushing from the conscious and subconscious back and forth. And on the 4th push, the bear pops out and he goes sailing off into the honey tree. Now, how this works is we have a belief based on a trauma that this trauma is never going to go away. It could be something as serious as being molested, raped, a murder, and it could be something you did or something that's happened to you. Now, the way we deal with this is there's a naturally occurring phenomena that takes place when somebody changes a belief system. A belief system would be that Republicans are all greedy. That's a belief system that somehow you develop this based on your environment or life experience. And it's so hard that you have no other way to believe that there's any other possible option. And then one day you meet somebody and he's a nice guy and he goes out and he's always charitable and you witness this. And then one day you find out he's Republican. And your values and beliefs change at that point. Now, this is a naturally occurring phenomenon, so that you can adjust to situations and circumstances in this world. It's a survival skill that we learn. So what we do, though, is we take a trauma and we change 4 aspects of that trauma in your imagination, which phases you between the conscious and subconscious. And what occurs is the components of the memory break down. And we're going to go into the 4-phase procedure here in a moment. Welcome back, and now we're going to actually do the procedure 4-phase. The first question you have to ask yourself or somebody else in order for this to work is not why are you depressed, having anxiety, PTSD, or suicidal thoughts. The question you have to ask yourself or somebody else is how long have you felt this way? Now, it could be an hour, it could be a year, it could be 20, 50, 60 years from the point that you're talking to somebody. At that point, you say, what occurred at that time? What occurred 60 years ago? What age were you? I was 18. What happened? I was molested. Whatever it is, as long as they know or you know what the inception of the dissociative disorder occurred. Once you know that, you have to be willing to let that go or to look at it. Once you're at that point, then we can move forward with this procedure. Now, before we do the procedure, which is very simple, simplistic, because when people are suicidal or depressed, their thinking process slows down and they're unable to process advanced thinking processes. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the effect of 4-phase and what it will have on you. We're driven, motivated in life to avoid pain and seek pleasure. Now you're here at the site because you're experiencing some pain. And what we want to do is we want to remove that pain. And the first thing you need to do is you have to test to make sure this works. So you write down on paper what it is that you're working on. If there was an experience, if there was a molestation, sometimes there are several events that took place over years or days. Some people it's just one traumatic experience. So first thing you need to do is write down, not in a paragraph, just very simply, this day, this year, this occurred, period. You know the whole experience, you don't need to relive it. Just at this point, just write down the experience or the experiences. Secondly, you need to write down the intensity level. If it's a 10, you're ready to kill yourself. If it's a 5, you've suffered from depression for years and you've learned to deal with it, but now you just want to get rid of this. You want to move on with your life. So whatever the intensity levels, you need to write it down. And then you need to say, how long, what is the reoccurrence of this experience? How often do you think about it? Is it all the time? Is it hourly? Is it weekly? Is it monthly? Whatever it is, you need to write it down and put that to the side, because that's your test. That's your litmus test for this procedure to work. And once we do the procedure, you're going to have amnesia. It creates what it does. Anything that we have in our lives that we can recall, from the meal we had last week to how to ride a bicycle, is based on one thing only: the emotional experience, the level of intensity we had to that experience. The components of a memory are your sensory, your vision, your audio, your taste, your touch, and your smell. Those are the core sensory memories. They're hardwired into our brain and can be accessed at any point, and you can recall any experience in your life in a state of hypnosis based on those sensories. Now, what's attached to those sensories are the emotion. The emotion is separate. It is actually stored in this part of your brain. The sensory data is stored up into your frontal lobe here. In between is your intensity. What we're going to do with 4-phase is remove the intensity. And how we do this is we're going to do the procedure now. This procedure will cause an amnesic behavior associated with targeted trauma. It's a very simple process because it was simplified for the main reason that when people are suicidal, they tend to slow down their mental process. And once you know the trauma, we went over that in a prior section, we're going to work on one specific trauma at a time. If there were multiple traumas, you have to do each one with this procedure. We're working on one trauma right now. The trauma, this is how it works. You see the trauma, you relive, you close your eyes and you relive the experience. No matter how painful it is, you go through in your mind from front to beginning. Now, you go back to the beginning. If there were perpetrators or there was people involved, what I'd like you to do is change the head, the face of the individual or individuals. If they were men, you change them to women. If they were women, you change them to men. The facial features, you put Brad Pitt's face on there, you put some other woman's face on there, like Britney Spears. Something that you can totally change in your imagination. Again, with your eyes closed, you relive the experience with the changed heads on the bodies. Go through the experience, and once you're at the end, you go back to the beginning. This time, if there were any sounds, somebody talking, you heard anything going on, if it's a low pitch, you change it to a high pitch. If their voice is deep, you make it into a high-pitched voice. If it's a high-pitched voice, you change it into a deep voice. Go experience, all the sounds. If there's classical music playing, you play jazz. If there's jazz playing, play rock and roll in the background. Whatever you're hearing, change the noise. Now, go back to the beginning again, and this time the whole thing is in black and white. No color. And you watch the characters with the change heads, the sounds changed. Watch, hear the whole process again from front to beginning, but in black and white. And now the last part, what we're going to do is we're going to change the temperature. If it was hot, you make it cold. If it was cold, you make it a hot experience. And you start the beginning and you work to the end. Now we can do a couple more things at this point. With your eyes still closed, you changed the temperature, you changed the sounds, you changed the imagery of what it looked like, the faces. This time go from the end and put it in reverse, like you're watching a movie backwards. And fast. Speed everything up. See everything in reverse. From back to front. And at this point you should be feeling some lightness in this area and some tingling in the front part of your frontal lobe. That is the conclusion of 4-phase. Tomorrow, when you wake up, you think about the experience that you wrote down. And if there's no reoccurrence or you are having problems even remembering the experience, then the procedure worked for you. If there are other experiences that you need to work on, other traumas, do the same exact thing, watch the tape, do the exact same thing that you did with this one. And I hope that you have learned something from this experience. We have thousands of people each week going through and doing this procedure. If everyone gave just $1 to remove these traumatic experiences from their mind, we would have no problem being able to stay online and have our phone lines open for people to call to get help. I am asking that you do the same and reciprocate and pay this forward to others so they can have the same exact experience. This is Matthew DeBell, the President of International Suicide Prevention and creator of 4-phase. Thank you for watching.